Hey guys, it's Tori, and today I'm going to be doing a bit of a book haul, mostly Christmas, although really a lot of these I just got for myself. In fact, I think there's only a couple that were from other people. So I split this into 3 different groupings. There were 2 bookstore shopping trips that I had that I have piles of, and then I have a few that were Christmas gifts from other people or just from a couple months ago that I got them and I just haven't talked about them on here. So this first stack came from a sale that was going on at a bookstore a little further away from me. It's actually, so there's a bookstore called Hideaway Books that's really close to me that I often go to, but there is a second one that they own that was about 40 minutes away from me. I had never been to that one, but they are unfortunately going out of business for that store, and so they were having a big sale and I decided to go out there as my uncle actually owns a restaurant out there, so it was kind of a nice way to get me and my siblings to go visit the restaurant and then also go book shopping. I've been working on not purchasing just any book when I go to used bookstores. In the past, I've had moments where I just am like, oh, this looks interesting, it's about something I'm interested in, I'll just grab it, but I'm trying to be a lot better about picking books I actually know about, or at least books from authors that I am already interested in, and so yeah, that's what I've been trying to do. So I wasn't really sure if I would find much in this bookstore, but I ended up finding 4 things that were really exciting to find. The first is a nonfiction, The House of Medici, It's Rise and Fall by Christopher Hibbert. I believe I saw Jackie from Jackie Reads and Writes reading this. I don't know if I added it to my TBR when she read it or if I did it before. And maybe she actually didn't read it. I don't really remember, but it's been on my Amazon wish list for a while and I saw it in this bookstore and I was like, perfect, I'll pick it up. So I have that. Next, I found Bridge of Clay by Marcus Zusak. This is the author of Book Thief, which a lot of people love. I have enjoyed when I read it in the past, although I do need to reread it because I feel like when I read it, I don't think I appreciated it as much as other people did, and I think it was just the time of my life, so I kind of want to reread it. But anyway, I got Bridge of Clay, which is his book that he wrote, I believe, after Book Thief. There may have been another one in between, I'm not 100% sure. I honestly don't know much about this. I believe it follows a father-son relationship, and they're building a bridge, maybe, and I don't really know much beyond that. I've heard mixed things about this one. I know a couple people who really enjoy it and feel like it's underrated, but I do know some people, several people, who said that they were really disappointed in it. So I'm curious to see how I end up feeling. And as you can see, it's actually a signed copy, which is just kind of cool. So there's that. But anyway, yes, I have that now, and I'm excited to read it whenever I get the chance to, as with all of these books, honestly. Next, I found a book that I was debating whether to get or not, just because it's a book that I see often in used bookstores and I can find online easily for very cheap. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to get it right then, but I was like, you know what, this is a really good condition for it. It's really discounted right now. It's 40% off, while also already being used. So I was like, you know what, let's just go for it. In fact, this whole stack that I'm talking about right now was only like $16 total. So yeah, definitely a deal, and I decided to just go for it. That is In the Company of the Courtesan by Sarah Dunant. This is an author that is very interesting to me because I do enjoy her books, but like all the ones I've read, I end up getting rid of. I end up unhauling because I don't think I'll ever reread them again. Frankly, there is at least one of those that I've unhauled that I kind of regret, but not enough to get it again. But anyway, this one I have, I believe it follows a woman who obviously is a courtesan in Italy. Renaissance Italy is where it takes place, and that's really all I know about it. But like I said, I've liked Sarah Dunant's works in the past, and this is one I've really wanted to give a shot. So I have that now, very exciting. And this last one was probably the find I was most excited about in this bookstore. I was excited about Bridge of Clay too. That was probably my second most excited moment in the store. But this one, I was surprised that they had it in such good condition, and I just had to get it. Like, this was one that I was like, there was no debate at all about this. I just needed it. And that is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. This is such a popular book, especially on my part of BookTube, the part of BookTube that likes their historical fiction, especially Victorian set things. So I've heard a lot about this. I know it follows Victorian London, but there's magic involved, and that's really all I know. But I've heard great things about it. This is a hardcover in great condition that I got for basically like $4, and I was so excited when I saw it, like I said. So this is just, I don't know when I'm gonna read it, honestly. I will be reading Piranesi soon, as you will discover when I do my January pile of possibilities, but so this will probably be after that, but I am really excited to pick this up eventually. I'm very excited that I found it for such a good deal, honestly. This next stack of books was one that I went to, so we went to the mall, me and my siblings, and they were getting a few last minute Christmas gifts, and I knew there was a used bookstore in this mall, and so I was like, hey, can we just go in and look? Like, I won't take too long. I don't really expect to find much. I feel like used bookstores can be very hit or miss for me. There's times where I find all sorts of things and other times where I really don't find much. This time I found a lot, and I was kind of shook at how much I found, and I spent more money than I should have, especially around Christmas when I was already spending so much money. But it's done. And they're all books that I have wanted to get and read. So let's get into this pile. The first I have here is The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. Don't know much about this. I think it follows a brother and sister. I think the main character is the sister, Maggie, I think is her name. And I think maybe the brother doesn't treat her very well, but she's very devoted to him. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's what I can remember other people saying about it. I have loved George Eliot. I've read 3 of her works and just have fallen in love with her, and so I really want to read more. I do have Daniel Deronda by her that I still need to read, but I wanted to have at least a second one by George Eliot that I could look forward to reading eventually, and so when I saw this I was like, perfect, let's pick it up. I've been watching for something like this, so here we are, and I'm glad to add this to my collection. Next I have Nana by Emile Zola. This is one that I've heard great things about, mostly from Connor Stompanato over on his channel, and I think he read it maybe last year or a couple years ago, and he spoke very highly of it, and he described it in a way, the premise was interesting to me. It's basically about a woman who I believe is a prostitute, but she ends up kind of rising socially by making connections with these really powerful men, I believe. I'm not 100% on that, but that's what I think I've heard, and it just sounds interesting, and so I'm glad I saw it. It's been hard to find a good copy of this because it's about a prostitute, and so there's a lot of covers that have naked women on them, and I'm like, I just don't want to be carrying this around to read, so I wanted a cover that was a little more tame. So when I saw this in the store for a good deal, it was in good condition. I mean, it was a library copy, obviously, and the cover is not, you know, nudity. I was like, okay, I can handle that better. So we'll see how this goes when I get to it. This is one that I'm interested in, obviously, like I said, but it's one that I think it's very possible I could not like very much, but I'm hoping that I end up enjoying it. So we'll see on that. Then the last of the classics I got was The Life of Charlotte Brontë by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is obviously the biography of Charlotte Brontë that Elizabeth Gaskell wrote not long after her death. I know all the controversy around this, but I'm willing to go into it knowing what Elizabeth Gaskell was trying to do, particularly for the time period and the culture and what was expected in biographies, especially biographies of friends within that culture, and so I will give it all the grace it honestly deserves. And I'm very curious to see how I end up feeling about it by the end, about how it's written and all of that jazz, as I love Elizabeth Gaskell, also love Charlotte Brontë, so maybe not as much as her sisters, but that's a whole other tangent. But I am excited to have this on my shelves. There was actually another bookstore trip I went to a while ago where this was on the shelves, and I ended up deciding not to get it, and I really regretted it after. So when I saw it in this trip, I was like, oh, good, I found it. We're good day. And so anyway, yes, now I have this. Then speaking of Elizabeth Gaskell, this is one of few where I actually have never heard of this book, but it's a biography about Elizabeth Gaskell, and I was like, you know, worth it. I've never seen a biography about Elizabeth Gaskell, and it's a chunky one. So that book is Elizabeth Gaskell, A Habit of Stories by Jenny Uglow. This is a humongous biography of Elizabeth Gaskell, and I really don't know much about her life, so I'm very curious to read this. I've read the huge Juliet Barker biography of the Brontes. This is actually, even though it looks like it would be about the same length, I believe this one is actually, yeah, it's just over 600 pages, so it's kind of deceptively big. whereas the Brontë biography, which is the same size if you were to hold them up next to each other, is like over 900 pages, almost 1,000 pages. So definitely kind of a deception there, but still chunky and still exciting. And this one's about one person as opposed to the other one that's about 3, and really even more than that because it's following their father and their brother and then obviously the sisters. So anyway, saw this, and I actually saw Claire Tomlin's biography of Jane Austen, and I was tempted to get that, but I was already spending a lot of money and I was like, you know what, let's just not, because I have read a biography of Jane Austen in the past and I do want to read more, but I don't feel like it's as pressing. Whereas Elizabeth Gaskell, like I said, I haven't read anything about and I don't really know about her life. So I thought this was worth it to get, and then Claire Tomlin's biography of Jane Austen I'll get at some other point. These last two I'm just going to talk about together because they are actually books I have read and that I did already own. But I wanted new copies, and I'll explain in a moment. But the books that I got are Wolf Hall and Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel. I did read this whole series earlier this year, but all of my covers did not even sort of match. Wolf Hall, I had this tattered, tall paperback, and then book 2, Bring Up the Bodies, I had this shorter, like more mass market paperback style. It wasn't quite that small, but it was definitely smaller. And then the third book I had a large hardcover for. And so when I saw both of these for not a terrible amount of money, probably at least half of what they would usually be if I got them new, I was like, you know what, let's get these because then my series can match at least better and it will look a lot better on my shelves, I think. And then I can just get rid of the other 2 and that will be great. So I was really excited to see these. Look at how good of condition they are in, like seriously, not even damage on the dust jackets, like they're beautiful, pristine condition. And they were only like $13 each, which usually they would be like $26 in hardcover. So yes, very excited about that. So anyway, yes, that was my trip to that bookstore. And then my last section, my last stack here, includes a couple books that I got a couple of months ago that I haven't really hauled on this channel yet. And then the other 2 were Christmas gifts. So let's just get right into this. Starting with a book that I actually got, I'm pretty sure it was like October, and that is In the Shadow of the Queen by Heather B. Moore. This is about one of the daughters of Queen Victoria. I can't remember which one, Princess Louise. And she's kind of one of the more forgotten children of Victoria, it sounds like. I don't know really much about her children in general, so to be fair, they're all unknown to me. But this author has written a couple of other interesting historical novels. She's not, I read Paper Daughters of Chinatown earlier this year by her, and I wouldn't say necessarily her writing's amazing. It's good enough that it like takes me into the story. It doesn't feel too choppy or anything, but I wouldn't say it's like amazing. However, she's really good at approaching historical stories that are lesser known and more in the background of history, and I really appreciate that. She particularly focuses on individuals and their impact on society, and so this one recently came out this year by her. And just the fact that it's her, but also the fact that it's Queen Victoria's daughter, Princess Louise, I was like, I have to try it. So obviously have not read it yet, but I have it now and it's very exciting. Next, I have a book that I have actually mentioned briefly on this channel because I have already read something for it. It's a collection of short stories and novellas and stuff, but I haven't actually hauled it, so I thought I would do that now, and that is Arcanum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson. This is a collection of most of his short stories, novellas for the Cosmere, not including a couple of the more recent ones, but if you haven't heard, most of you probably have, but if you haven't, I am trying to read through the entire Cosmere over the next little while and do it in publication order. So I got this so I could read some of the short stories and stuff. I have read most of the novels in the Cosmere universe setting, whatever, so most of my reading will be rereads, but I have actually not really read any of the short stories except for one. I had read a novella by him, so I won't be reading that again because it was actually a couple months ago. But yes, I have this now so I can be working through it as needed for whatever I'm reading, and it's very exciting. So pleased with that, so excited to continue with the Cosmere. I actually have had a little bit of stress thinking about that recently, but I'll probably get into that in my next video where I do my January pile of possibilities. I'm still going to do it, but I'm just kind of rethinking in my mind how I want to go about it, how I want to approach things in general with really a lot of stuff. So anyway, leaving that tangent and getting back into this haul, the next book I got was actually a Christmas gift from Jackie from Reads and Writes. So thank you so much, Jackie. She ended up gifting me How to Be a Victorian by Ruth Goodman, which is a nonfiction following basically the daily life of people in the Victorian period to explore the culture and time period itself. And I'm very excited to read it. I actually have on audiobooks How to Be a Tudor by Ruth Goodman, so I still need to read that as well or listen to that. But now I also have this one, so this could be a really fun thing to read actually throughout the month of October. Does anybody else accidentally call October Victober all the time, even when they're talking to other people? Like, it just slips out as Victober, or you almost say Victober and then you're like, you have to like make an effort to say October. Anyway, another tangent, but yes, I think this could be fun to read throughout that month. I know that that month is really focused around reading actual literature from the time, but I think this could be a nice addition to the experience. So we'll see when I actually get to this, but that is a possibility. Hey guys, Editing Tori here, and I realized just as I was starting to edit this video that I had totally forgotten that I did get one other book as a Christmas present. It's not really one I'm going to read because it's a really old copy, so it's a little more for decor collectors kind of situation, but I still wanted to mention it because it's cool. And that book is Owen Tudor, A Historical Romance by, I believe her name's Emma Robinson. Yes. And this copy is actually from 1857, which is so cool. This is an author I've never even heard of. My friend mostly got it for me because it was about Owen Tudor, who was kind of like the original member of the Tudor family. And so yeah, kind of interesting, or at least maybe the original known member. I don't know much of the history of this, but kind of cool, and she thought it would be cool to give me, so that's why I got it, and I'm excited to just be able to see it on my shelves. Like I said, it's old enough I don't think I'm going to read this particular copy. Maybe eventually I'll get a copy I can read from, but it is just kind of cool to have this old collector's item. So there is that, and now back into my regularly scheduled video. And the final book that I got is one I'm so excited about. It's one that I actually asked for from my parents for Christmas. It was the only book that I specifically asked for, and I seriously, like, I didn't cry, but I felt the prickle of tears in the back of my eye just due to excitement over this book, and that is The Annotated Wuthering Heights, obviously by Emily Brontë, edited by Janet Gezari. I saw this a little while ago. I don't even know where, somewhere. I think it was probably an Instagram post. I saw someone post about it, and then I found it on Amazon. I was like, I need it. I need it so bad. So I got it, and I'm very excited. I still haven't even read my Annotated Little Women, which is a whole other issue, but I now have Annotated Wuthering Heights, and it's kind of nice actually because it has really big margins even where there's not actual annotations from the editor. So there are some spots where I could even write my own notes if I wanted to, which could be nice. But yeah, it has all sorts of things about Wuthering Heights itself, about the history of it, about the Brontes, I believe. So yeah, very, very, very excited to have this. So excited to reread this book. It's one of my favorites of all time. For a reason. I just love it. So yes, I have this, so excited about it, and that is my book haul for this Christmas. So like I said, excited about all of these things. They added quite a bit obviously to my reading, my TBR, my physical TBR, which I recently was foolish enough to calculate how many books I have and how many pages that adds up to, and based on past years how long that would take me to read. And it was not as bad as I thought it would be, but it still wasn't great. And I'll be talking about that more in my January pile of possibilities. So there's your little teaser for that. But yes, I did include all of these. I had all of these by that point. Obviously the Wolf Hall books I've already read, so I didn't need to worry about that. And Wuthering Heights, same thing. So there's that, but yeah, I just have a lot of work to do reading wise, and so I really need to slow down on purchasing books, which I do intend to. I'm working out details. Like I said, I'll talk about that in my next video, my January pile of possibilities. But until then, Let me know if you've read any of these, your thoughts on them. Let me know what you got for Christmas, as I would love to know what you're most excited about. Even if it's not a book, just if you have a gift that you were so excited to receive, just let me know about it. Or even a gift that you were so excited to give, because I know for me, my favorite part of Christmas morning is watching other people open gifts that I got for them. Like, I still get excited to get things for myself, obviously, but I get even more excited to see what other people's reactions are to what gifts I get them. So anyway, that all being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful week, a wonderful reading life, and I will see you next time. Bye!